Okay.
Can I just like move somewhere because this table is like shaking?
Yeah, sure. As long as we don't knock it down. Okay. All right, guys. About that. So for our last topic for the day, we're going to talk about topic 15, and that is data analysis, logic, permutations, and combinations. So on page 507, we're going to take a look at the smart points. We're going to look at 40 smart points for data analysis, 10 smart points for logic, 5 smart points for permutations and combinations, and 45 smart points for ratios and proportions. Given all those smart point values, which categories do you think are the most important ones on the test? Angela, what are the most important ones? Ratios and proportions, and what other one? Data analysis, absolutely. And here's a quick recap, or should I say pre-cap, because a recap is afterwards, of what we're going to learn. Little special Kaplan tips. Data analysis. We're going to pay very close attention to our units. We are going to review charts and diagrams before we read. For logic, we're going to know that these are designed to be very hard questions and to be big time sinks. So we're going to be aware when we're spending too much time on any one logic problem and say, hey, this is just too much time, we have to move on. Permutations and combinations, we're going to be asking ourselves, does the order of things matter? And for ratios and proportions, again, units. So once again, guys, let's go over the Kaplan method for SAT Math. Step number 1, we ask,
What is the question?
Step 2, we ask,
What information am I given?
and we look,
In question 7.
and we look at,
Format the answers.
and we ask,
What can I do?
and what can you do?
The numbers, that's always straightforward math.
And then you must ask
Am I finished?
to make sure that you found the value you're looking for. Awesome, guys. So let's take a look at how we're going to do data analysis on test A. We're on page 508. Notice about data analysis on the SAT. Okay, Nicholas, would you like to read the first box and fill it in for me, please?
Data analysis questions will ask you to interpret information provided in blank and blank.
And what are those blanks? What will you have to interpret when you do data analysis?
The data, the numbers, and
And what do we see data in? And what is scientific data usually formatted as? Help me out, somebody. Charts and graphs. Good. Thanks, Nicholas. Awesome. Charts and graphs. Good. Okay, go across Nazreen.
Before bubbling, across.
Across, please.
Before answering the question, spend about 10 minutes, 10 seconds, equate to yourself with the blink and blink of a graph or chart.
Okay, so what are we looking at on this graph and chart? What are the things that you think are going to be important?
Titles.
Oh, we're going to look at the title, but what about the chart specifically?
Action.
Okay. We're going to look at the format. Okay. We're going to look at how the axes are labeled. And we're going to look at the terms of the graph. And the terms just simply means units, paying attention to what the units are. Okay, Shady, will you read the next box, please?
Before bubbling your answer, make sure you have check.
What do you want to always make sure you check when you're doing math and science problems?
Your work.
Check your work. And what specifically about your work do you want to check? What do you want to make sure you check? We just talked about it. We look at the axis. We look at what? The units. So we definitely want to check our units. Awesome. Thank you, Shady. Okay. Ooh, let's see. Let's have Alex read the next one. I'm sorry. Brian.
Harder questions will require you to pull together data from more than one graph or chart. A set of 2 or more charts is called.
What is a set of 1 or more charts, 2 or more charts? Do you want a hint? It made a movie with the same name. Keanu Reeves was in it.
Matrix.
Uh-huh. That sounded retarded. Uh-huh. Yes, Matrix, exactly right. Good. Okay, so the next one, who can we get now? Let's get Keisha.
A scatter plot is a visual picture of the relationship between two variables. The points in the scatter plot are not joined by a line.
Not joined by a line. They're a scatter plot. They're not joined by a line. Okay, good. Okay, who's our slope people here? Who's our slope people? Who's good with slope? Okay, Harry.
Okay, to find the amount of y per x at any given point, sketch a line from the point to the origin and examine the
I just gave it to you.
slope.
Slope. Excellent. Keep going.
To find the line that best fits a set of points in the scatter plot, sketch it and estimate the x and y.
The X and Y. What are those R words that we use for X and Y?
Rise or
Excellent. Rise and run. Alrighty. So while you guys are finishing copying that down, we can move on to question number 1. Question number 1 is a graph. We have to look carefully at the layout of the graph, become familiar with the format and the terms of the graph. This is a progression graph. That means each box from 10 to 20 is 10 minutes, from 20 to 30 is 10 minutes, and so on. It's a time progression through the test. And question number on the side, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, that's what question number she's on at any given time. Okay, so let's have Nazreen. Would you like to read for me, please? Read the question.
It took Dione 15 minutes to complete a history test that contained 5 questions. She answered all of the questions in order. According to the graph, approximately how many minutes did it take Dione to complete question 3?
Okay, so approximately how many minutes did it take her to complete question 3? All right, what is the question asking?
How many minutes did it take to complete?
How long it takes to do that one question, and what information am I given?
She took 15 minutes to complete the whole exam, and it had 5 questions.
Okay, and so what can I do with this information?
Look at the graph.
Just look at the chart. So let's look at the chart. Question 3, about when did she complete question 3?
31 minutes.
Okay, it's about 31 minutes. That sounds right to me. So when did she start question 3?
122.
She started question 3 when she finished question 2, right? Which would be, Kaisha?
Around 22 minutes into the exam.
All right, so if she was done with question 2 at 22 minutes and she's done at question 3 at 31 minutes, how do we find out how long it took her to do question 3? Yes?
Subtract 31.
You subtract, and what do you get for your answer? 9, and that is C. C, excellent. All righty, let's move on to the next page. Logic. 10 smart points. Okay, guys, only 10 smart points. If you get something that's really challenging and it's going to take you a really long time, don't spend 20 minutes on a question. If you can't figure it out in 30, 45 seconds, you don't even have any idea of what you can even do to find the answer to the problem, just skip it and move on. So let's have somebody read about what we have to know about logic on the SAT. Harry.
Some questions may not even look that math at first. Don't be discouraged. Instead, read them carefully and be sure to understand the situation before making any calculations.
These questions sometimes don't even look like math, guys. They're not even formatted like math because they're really more or less critical thinking exercises. Okay, let's take a look at some examples of some things we have to be careful for. Sketching the situation is often helpful, but we have to keep in mind the difference between two-dimensional and multi-dimensional objects. We have to be very careful if we're talking about a square or a box here. Okay, and you consider complicated logic problems step by step. Just do it one step at a time and figure your way through. So, question number 2, I'd like somebody to read that question for me. I'm going to call on somebody different. Asif.
What is the greatest number of pieces that can result from 3 cuts to a cube?
Okay, what's the question? Asif, what is the question?
Greatest number of pieces that can result from 3 cuts to a cube?
And what information am I given?
3 cuts to a cube.
The cube is cut 3 times. So you're going to have to give me a little latitude because I know that this isn't exactly a cube. But tell me, if you want to make 3 cuts to a cube, where would you make your first cut, Harry?
Straight down the middle.
Straight down the middle. Let's do it.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a prepackaged cake. I asked them for the hardest one they had so it wouldn't fall apart when I cut it. I'm the only person who asked for a hardest piece of cake they have in the place. Never happened before. Okay, now, where do you want to make the second cut? Yes, Anobi.
Like the other way, but so it's like a vertical cut
Yeah.
going.
Like this?
Yeah.
Yeah, so it's
Okay.
You have to make 4 equal.
And then
Oh, and Harry's excited because he's got this. Okay, Harry.
and that nose.
Diagonally which way? Now, if you went this way, you wouldn't have the most number of pieces. You'd cut 2 pieces in half. Gabby, how can we get more pieces? Oh boy, we are going to do it like that. So if you cut this like this, how many pieces are we going to have with each one of these 4 cut in half? 8. So each one of these is cut in half. So in the end, you have 8. Okay, good. And we can all see this. The halves didn't come across. But now, voila, we have 8 pieces of cake. Yay! Okay, good. So now Miss Cage gets to clean all that up later. Okay, so 8 is the answer. So sometimes the best thing that you can do is just visualize what you have to do. And am I finished? Yes, I am.
Can you bring
Okay.
cake to the SAT?
Yeah.
Don't bring food to the SAT. They won't let you bring it in. Bottled water only. Okay, let's take a look at permutations and combinations on page 510. Okay, know this about permutations and combinations on the SAT. Permutations are sequences. Order matters. Order matters. Okay, how many different ways can 4 people stand in a line? Do you guys have familiarity with factorial notation? What is factorial notation?
Don't use like 4 times, 3 times, 2 times.
Yes, this is the thing that goes like this, right? Awesome, that's good. So, order matters. So, how many different ways can 4 people stand in a line? It would be this. 24. Good, excellent. Alrighty, so you know what else? There's a permutation formula. Okay, where n is the total number of items that you have to choose from, and r is the total of number of items that you desire. And so let's take a look at combinations. Combinations are groups and order doesn't matter. Order doesn't matter. Okay, how many different groups of 2 people can you make from a group of 4 people? What's the best way to figure this one out?
Choose 2 from 4.
Okay, so just choose 2 from 4. Let's say you've got these 4 people, A, B, C, and D. So start pairing them up. What are your pairs?
A, B,
Okay.
C, D, A, C, A, D, A, D.
Oh, sorry. My mistake.
Oh, B, C.
All right, so there's 6. 6 different ways. Okay, excellent. All right, and there is a formula. And of course, if you have a scientific graphing calculator, you have a permutations and combinations key. That is the one that is NCR and NPR. And again, the N and the R have the same meanings. C, of course, is combination, P is permutation. All right, the fundamental counting principle. And if, I'm sorry, is there a question? Do you have a question, Gabby?
Oh, sorry, I'm just asking if permutation was the first one or combination.
Yes, permutation is the first one and order matters. Combination was the second one and order doesn't matter. Okay. All right, fundamental counting principle. If an event has R possible outcomes and another independent event has S possible outcomes, there are R, S ways for the two events to occur together. You multiply them. All right, so given that, somebody read to me question number 3. Who am I going to pick on now? Mark?
How many 4-digit integers have 2 as their thousands digit and 1 or 7 as their units digit?
Okay, my SHSAT people, this is the same thing as the slot game that you played when you took the SHSAT. And remember how you drew 4 different slots, 1 for each possibility? You could do the same thing because this is the same kind of problem, only we don't call it playing games, we call it critical thinking and logical reasoning, but it's really the same thing. So, the question says that we need a 4-digit number and it has to have, what are our rules?
2 and 7. 2 and 7.
Okay, so we want to look at all the different numbers of possibilities for all the different numbers and multiply them all together. So, how many different possibilities do you have for the thousands digit? 1 possibility, because they say it's got to have 2, so there's only 1 possibility here. Okay, how many different possibilities do we have for the hundreds digit? Are there rules for the 100 digit? There are no rules. So how many possibilities? 10. 0 through 9. Now, what about the 10 space? Are there rules? No. So how many different digits can be there? Awesome. And what about the ones digit? Are there rules? Yes. And what do the rules say? How many can there be? 2 different ones only. So, in order to find out the number of possibilities, you multiply all those numbers together. And what do you get when you multiply 1 times 10 times 10 times 2, folks? Everybody.
200.
200. And 200 is our answer. Grid it in. And you're doing great. Let's take a look at our last math smart point category, and that's ratios. Now remember, guys, ratios is another one. Some of those hidden smart points that we talk about. When we say the triangles, they say how many smart points it is, but then you use it finding figures within figures and so on. And it turns out you use triangles a lot more than you would have thought. Same thing with this. You're going to end up using this quite a bit, ratios. So let's move on. Page 551. Know this about proportions on the SAT. Nicholas, read that for me, please.
Rate is a type of proportion. A rate is any something for something.
A rate is any something for something. So, Anna, what's an example of a common rate?
2 through 3.
Like an example of a rate, like a something per something. What is an example of a rate?
Oh, speed per minute? I mean, per time?
Sure, speed per time. That's a very good one. Distance, miles per hour. What's another one? Yes, miles per hour. And what's another one?
Rotation. Was it rotation per minute or rotation per hour? Or rotation per second?
Per whatever, right. Rotations per minute, rotations, revs per second. Good. Yes, that's another one. And what about interest? Is that a rate?
Rotation per second.
Yes, dollars, cents per dollar, and so on. Okay, so let's go on to that next box. D equals RT. Implying a multiplication. What does that formula mean? Who knows what that means?
Speed, distance equals rate over times time. Yes.
Okay, that's what I get for saying who knows what it means instead of calling somebody good. Thank you for your enthusiasm. I love it. Distance equals rate times time. And of course, today I'm doing probably my sloppy sport work ever. Ugh. Okay, so let's take a look at this. Keep track of the careful track of the units of measurements. You want to write out your question with the units. That's your secret there. So look at the question in the box across from it. Could I get Mark to read it to me, please?
A train travels at a speed of 75 miles per hour. How many minutes does it take for a train to travel 40 miles?
Okay, so how are we going to figure this one out, Mark?
You can set up a proportion.
You can, and what is the proportion you'd set up?
You can set 40 over 60 because it says, wait.
40
It's distance equals to rate times time. So to find the time, you would divide distance by speed.
Okay, good. So it's distance divided by the time, you mean. You make a rate by doing distance by time. So what is the distance?
40.
What distance did he travel?
40 miles. 77 miles.
Okay. Traveled 40 miles, and then how far? We don't know. And at the rate of what? How many miles per hour? 75 miles. And what do we put in the denominator here? 60 minutes. Good. We're converting our hour to minutes. And now what do we do? And what do we get when we do that?
75x equals 2500. X equals 32.
Excellent. X equals 32. And our X is minutes. And it's 32 minutes. Excellent. Good. So, average speed. Average speed. Average speed is found by the total distance divided by the total time. Okay? Remember, guys, you can't just average all the speeds, add them all up or whatever. It's total distance divided by total time. Do not just add up the averages of the speeds. Okay, total distance and total time. Okay, good. Alrighty, when presented with multi-part journeys at different speeds and asked to find the average speed, don't just average the speeds. Use the average speed formula. Isaiah, can you read me question number 4, please?
Vito reads 96 pages in 2 hours and 40 minutes. What was Vito's average rate of page per hour?
Okay, so how are we going to set this one up? How do we set up the proportion? How many pages does he read?
96.
96 pages. And how long does it take him to read these 96 pages?
2 hours and 40 minutes.
Okay, so what are we going to put that as, the denominator? Are we going to put 2.4? What are we going to
You put 100 minutes.
put? 2 hours and 40 minutes?
I'm sorry. Maybe 60 minutes.
Awesome, that's exactly what you put. All right, and what does that equal to?
46.
What do we put on the other side of the proportion?
X
Mm-hmm.
over 60.
Wonderful. Good job, Isaiah. Now, what are we going to do? Take us home, Isaiah, since you're working so well on this. Yes. And what would that give us? 96 times 60. Is somebody calculating?
5760.
5,760.
Okay, now I'm going to need it to be divided by 160.
36.
36. So, what is our 36? 36 what?
Pages per hour.
36 pages per hour. That's great, you guys. You did really, really awesome on that. And I could tell when I saw your smart track that you could do it because I saw that you guys were all logging on and did your homework and did really well on that in your pre-work. So I'm very proud of you with that, by the way, you guys, with going online and doing your homework. You have a very high homework completion rate, and I'm psyched. So keep up the good work. So this is what we're going to do. We're going to group you guys up. We're going to have Group A be John, Zenobia, Nazreen, and Angelica. Group B is going to be Paul, Mark, Asif, and Shady. Group C is going to be Hubba, Yevda, Brian, and Anna. And Group D is going to be Kaisha, Zune, Nicholas, Gabriella, and Harry. And if your group letter is a vowel, you are going to start on page 514. And if your group letter is a consonant, you're going to start on page 532. And I'll be around to help you.
What group are we?